Starting a nonprofit takes some special skills, but the good news is I believe that with practice and effort, any nonprofit founder can master them. So in this video, I'm going to talk through 6 of the top skills that a nonprofit founder needs to master in order to ensure that their new organization gets visibility, can attract funding, and can deliver on its programs and mission successfully. Welcome back. My name is Amber Melanie Smith. I'm a nonprofit founder and executive director who makes these videos here on YouTube to help people who want to make an impact navigate the various ways to do that. As always, I hope that you find this video helpful and useful. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. If you're in the process of starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan, check out my 2 online courses at my website, foundertofulltime.com, that cover those topics and might be able to help you out. Being a successful nonprofit founder takes a lot of different unique skills. So let's get into these skills right away. The first one that I'm going to cover is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is all about first being able to identify the outcomes you need to reach, the goals that you need to set in order to reach those longer term outcomes, and then the steps that you need to plot out in order to achieve your goals. So kind of like being a big picture project manager in a way. Strategic thinking is all about being able to then prioritize which of those goals in order to most quickly and effectively get to your ultimate outcome and achieve your mission as an organization. If strategic thinking is something that you're not sure you're strong in, or maybe you feel like you need to refine a little bit, here are some tips for how to practice and hone your strategic thinking skills in the nonprofit space. The first thing you need to be able to do and practice in order to hone your strategic thinking skills is to have a super clear vision. This helps not just you as a nonprofit founder, but it can also help the other leaders in your team working with you to help get this nonprofit off the ground. So a super clear vision can help you learn how to prioritize what actions to take. And the best way to make sure that your vision is clear is by formatting it as a SMART goal. That's S-M-A-R-T. That means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So to give you an example of a social impact mission that might be formatted as a SMART goal. We want to end homelessness for 100 people, so that's pretty specific, in our city, so that's relevant to your local community, in the next 2 years, so it's time-bound. You've got a very specific goal, you know when you got to do it by, and you know what the scope of it is. It's in your city. The second element of refining your strategic thinking skills is by just writing it out as a strategic plan or strategic vision. Strategic planning is this process of basically working backwards from your ultimate vision, your outcomes, to defining those goals, to defining those tasks that you need to take in order to reach those goals, and then deciding who on your team and what skill sets are needed to carry out each part of the plan. There's no shame in writing it down. No one can expect you to keep a strategic plan or strategic vision just in your head all day. So if you've never done this before, I highly recommend just searching online for nonprofit strategic plan template, something like that, to get you sort of a blank canvas to work on. And once you get this template, you want to start with the ultimate outcome in a certain period of time. So let's say your mission is to end homelessness in your city. Well, thinking about what you might be able to accomplish towards that goal in the next year or 2 years or 3-year period. And don't plan too far beyond that, because the world changes pretty fast and it's pretty hard to plan that far ahead without something changing your plans all around. So start with that outcome, work your way backwards, and then don't forget to get feedback from other people on your team and in your community to make sure, do that gut check that your vision is clear and the strategy to reach your vision makes sense. The second top skill that I want to talk to you about today is team leadership. And of course, this is a really important one because as a nonprofit founder, at the very least, you're working with a board of directors, but it is also very possible that even currently or in the near future, you're also going to be working with some paid staff or full-time or part-time staff. So as a nonprofit founder, you've got to be able to inspire your team around your goals so that you're all working effectively towards those goals. You've got to be able to manage this team, delegate tasks, and communicate effectively, not just with your team, but with all the stakeholders of your organization. One super easy way to practice becoming an inspirational or motivational leader for your team is to just find opportunities to restate the purpose of your organization, the why. Why are we all here at this meeting doing this thing, talking about this thing? Why are we doing this? So that ultimate vision that we talked about in the strategic planning part of this video. One easy way you can do this is by simply building in a couple of minutes into meeting agendas to take a moment as a team to just reiterate, remember the mission, and talk about the mission and possibly some impacts that your organization has had in the recent history. Sharing the impacts is another one of those ways to refine your team leadership because, like I just said, it reminds everyone why you're all there, and it's encouraging to see that your actions matter and are making progress. Another really important way to practice team leadership is simply to lead by example. What that looks like is showing your enthusiasm for the mission of the organization, sharing updates about things going on behind the scenes, being transparent with your team about things going on so that they have a sense of ownership over the future of the work too. The third top skill that nonprofit founders must master is perhaps a less fun skill to have to master for some, but it is nonetheless a very important one, and that is financial management. A nonprofit founder really needs to have a strong understanding of financial management, which includes budgeting, how to create a budget, how to manage a budget for the organization, forecasting, so being able to anticipate upcoming expenses and revenue coming in, and of course, fundraising, your strategies to bring in the money in the first place. All of these aspects of the financial management skill are really critical to ensuring that your organization can not just grow its impact and your capacity to make an impact, whether by hiring more staff or purchasing needed equipment, but also ensures that your organization can be sustainable over the long term. Honing your financial management skills really starts with creating a solid budget for your organization. And for those who haven't created a budget before, there's sometimes confusion about, well, how do you know what to put in the budget? Well, it's all about research and estimating and forecasting, right? So you've got your strategy, you know what actions you're going to need to take, at least in the short-term future, in order to reach your organization's goals. So it's just a matter of taking a look at those actions and thinking what staffing, what equipment, what internet services, online things are we going to need in order to effectively complete those actions, right? So as a new organization, you might need liability insurance, you might need a website, you might need equipment to execute on the programs of your organization, materials and supplies. If you're in a position to bring on staff, then staff salaries. But all of these things are things that you could put in your budget. And in order to know how much those things cost, you can simply do some comparative research on the internet. There's nothing like going through the process of developing a budget that helps you understand better how to forecast, because you will see what expenses you're going to need to incur throughout the year, as well as how much money you're going to need to raise in order to pay for all of those expenses. So at the very least, that will help you forecast in the short term what's going to come down the line for your organization financially. The other aspect of financial management that's really important is the ability to create and explain financial reports. So one of the responsibilities of your board of directors is to monitor your organization's financial status, making sure that it has enough cash on hand in order to do the things it needs to do that quarter and half a year and year. So you might go online and find a template for a financial report and practice inputting data into that to be able to explain it to your board. If you're using accounting software, something like QuickBooks, then most of the time that software will just produce a financial report for you. So just practice reading through those, making sure you understand those is a great way to practice your financial management skills. Skill number 4 is very important and a little bit more fun, at least to me anyway, and it is networking and relationship building. So relationships are everything. A nonprofit founder has to be able to build strong relationships with all kinds of stakeholders. That's donors and potential donors, volunteers and potential volunteers, and everyday people in your community. And you might have other types of stakeholders too, depending on what kind of organization you are, whether you work with your local government or you work a lot with area businesses. Those are also stakeholder types. And you need good relationships with all of them to be able to develop a positive reputation for your organization, which then contributes to your ability to secure funding and support. If you're someone who's a little bit nervous about networking and putting yourself out there, then I have 2 tips that might be helpful for you. The first thing that I like to do is think of questions I can ask people. People typically love to share about themselves, their stories, their background, what they're interested in. So come up with questions and hopefully make them questions that you genuinely care to hear the answers for, that when you're in a networking situation, you have in your back pocket ready to pull out and ask someone that you meet. The second tip is I like to put myself in the shoes of the person I am talking to. If I'm trying to possibly form a relationship with a person because I think that they might be a good future supporter of my organization, then I want to put myself in their shoes and I want to think to myself, what are their goals here today? What is their ultimate mission? What are they trying to achieve or get? And once I feel like I have a solid understanding of their motivations, I think to myself, well, is there anything that our organization does that might align with something that they want to accomplish also? And then when the time is right, I can propose that means of partnering with that person, and then hopefully they meet their goals and we meet our goals and it's mutually beneficial. Skill number 5 is strong verbal and written communication. Nonprofit founders need to be able to communicate their vision clearly to a wide variety of stakeholders and audiences. They need to be able to craft compelling messages, both written and spoken, that are not just clear and easy to understand, but that compel people to take action towards the mission. One of the hardest things about this skill for me in the beginning was I have a tendency to be long-winded sometimes. So something that really helped me was just figuring out how to take away as many words as possible when I'm trying to explain our mission to make it as concise as possible. Sometimes less is more. So how can you choose the most powerful words in as few words as possible to inspire people with your mission? I really believe that those shorter, more powerful phrases will also be absorbed and remembered more by people you talk to. And the 6th very important skill that nonprofit founders need to develop and master is adaptability and resilience. Nonprofit founders have got to be able to adapt to constantly changing circumstances because circumstances are constantly changing, I can tell you that. They must be able to pivot quickly when needed and really be flexible in their approach to problem solving. One piece of advice I would give on this one, because I have a history of being a perfectionist, and the advice is this: once you realize that nothing is going to go exactly perfectly, you can at least have peace of mind knowing that. But it also gives you this mindset of, well, you know, I can make a plan and I can hope that it is executed on perfectly, but I'm going to, in my mind and heart, be ready and vigilant for having to change something that happens. One strategy that can really help you develop a sort of adaptable mindset, but also help you put in place concrete plans to be adaptable, is something called a pre-mortem. It's when you sit down, when you're planning some kind of event or project or program, and ideally you and your team, sit there and you list all of the possible challenges or things that could go wrong with this event, project, or program. You brainstorm together, you really think hard, okay, what are all the crazy things that could happen? Maybe it's an event that needs a lot of volunteers and only half the volunteers show up. Maybe it's an outdoor project and there's a hurricane that day. What if it's a long-term fundraising strategy and then we hit an economic downturn? So just listing things big and small that could go wrong. But then what you do is you go back through the list with your team and you write out how you would mitigate each of those things one by one. And that helps you and your team sort of think on your feet and have an idea of what you would do in that particular circumstance should it arise. It helps you, ironically, become adaptable through even more intense planning. And if you are someone who likes to plan and feels less anxious and more in control when you can plan, this is a great way to train yourself to be adaptable through the planning process. There's so much that goes into being a nonprofit founder, but those are 6 of the really, really critical skills that I see, that I can tell you I've seen other nonprofit founders really master and thrive once they've been able to master those things. And I'd love to hear from you at this point. What are some other skills that you think are important for nonprofit founders? What are some of the skills on the list that we talked about that you are really strong in? And what are some that you want to work on? Leave in the comments below. As I mentioned before, if you are in the process of starting a nonprofit, or you want to think about starting a nonprofit, or you're in the process of developing a sustainable fundraising plan, check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have those 2 online courses that can guide you through the process of both of those things. I also have a newsletter for changemakers of all types and nonprofit leaders. You can find the link to subscribe to that right below this video, and of course, opt out anytime you'd like. Finally, I have a Facebook group called Change the World or Bust. We've got 4,000 people from around the world, and they're all trying to make an impact. Some starting nonprofits, some starting socially conscious businesses, but whatever your method is for making an impact, you are welcome. So come on by to our group, Change the World or Bust. That's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this, you found it useful. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye.